Why do you think it's important to consider how monsters are imagined?
So what's more important, looking at the monster or looking at the look for the monster and why we search for it? Cryptozoology is definitely human-centric, about that longing for and curiosity for and wondering about other beings, possible beings. And so the most important thing is that they might be there, and there's evidence that they are there. And we want to believe that there's things that are beyond our perception and know for a fact that there are. Slugs and things that don't have backbones, they're more rare to be fossilized. Most creatures, it's pretty special circumstances when they become fossilized. Well, it's always going to be incomplete, right? Even if we have fossils, we have a Tyrannosaurus or something, no one's ever seen one. We still have to guess about a lot of stuff. Every 10 years there's a different vision of how its body was constructed. But no one will ever see one. We all have to imagine it. Well, I think that it gives us some perspective on being human, to try to put yourself in another animal's shoes, is to question what it is to be the kind of animal that we are.
Sure.
And cryptozoology, looking for monsters, is this step between the imagination and the real. Like, find me a monster in cryptozoology that's weirder than a platypus. It can swim with its eyes closed, navigates by echolocation. No, wait, sorry. Electromagnetic stuff. Has poisonous barbs on its feet. Produces milk. Lays eggs. Ancient fossils of platypus. They're super old. Bigfoot used to be real. Gigantopithecus was a large primate about 10 feet tall that lived in Southeast Asia. It stood upright. It was a vegetarian. They were basically Sasquatches. And that's why the idea of Yeti isn't that unlikely. Like in Nepal, you can find, there's like in a temple, you can find a skull cap with hair from a Yeti, supposedly. But just because the cookies are gone doesn't mean that Santa ate them. Maybe your dad ate the cookies. Then again, maybe the reindeer did. Well, it's a lot about appreciating what's here. How come we don't say that our cat is a monster? Maybe we do. Maybe animals that exist are just monsters that exist, because monsters are defined by their non-existence. And so extinct animals may as well be monsters, because we have to imagine them in order to participate with them. I think dinosaurs were just forever fascinating. I'm just interested in them because they are completely unbelievable. But no matter how much I try, I can't believe it, and yet it's totally true. And so that questioning of my knowledge, where my knowledge exceeds my ability to believe, they're so poetic. They're these animals that lived so long ago that their bodies, their bones have turned to stone. Like I just learned this morning that if you held your arms out and thought of it as the history of Earth, from the tip of one hand to your wrist would all be Precambrian. And so one hand left is when all complicated life happened, and with a nail filer, you could rub off all of human history with one swipe. And that gives me a little perspective. It's like probably why people are interested, or romanticize outer space partially, is that the problems you're having become pretty small when you step back far enough, or look back far enough, as dinosaurs do. That's something to imagine. What about the animals that haven't evolved yet? Are they monsters? They're not even part of some geologic memory. They're just fantasy. It's like the children you haven't had. They are possible. And in fact, some of them are going to show up. Who knows who they'll be? People are looking for new perspectives. It's a lot of artwork is about opening your mind somehow and trying to see things differently, to gain perspective on different things. Or to confuse knowledge, to question knowledge. A lot of times art will be unsettling. There's something you like it, you don't like it. You don't know why. You have to, and it keeps you engaged because it bothers you.
Okay, sea monsters?
Yeah, for sure. It's called dracontology, by the way, the study of sea serpent. In fact, all fish are kind of monsters to me because they're alien. I look into their eyes and they don't return my gaze. They don't have that mammalian meeting of minds. They know what it's like to breathe water. We forget we're in air until we go either into outer space or underwater and don't have it anymore.
Sasquatch?
I think Sasquatch is super unlikely, unfortunately. The only way I can possibly think that they might be real is if they have a kind of camouflage that probably has some kind of psychic power that is beyond my way to fathom, where they can just blend in or just say, "Don't see me," and then you just don't see them.
And the Yeti?
Same story. Internet is a vampire to me. Just waste my time checking emails and stuff. I'm actually terrified of aliens. I've been phobic of them my whole life. I think it's because they're more likely. I'm pretty scared of them. And the cryptozoology that studies aliens actually gives me shivers. It scares the crap out of me. I don't really care. Like, I think that monkeys are just as interesting, if not more interesting than hobbits. I kind of think, why not? There could be some other primate that's small and lives underground with big hairy feet. Yeah, I believe in fairies. But fairies are butterflies. If fairies were real, they wouldn't be as magic as butterflies and moths. But what's weird to me about angels is the dichotomy of like good, bad. They're like they have like these demons are evil and angels are good. That seems unlikely. There used to be unicorns, and I in fact was the last unicorn, but I got my unicorn sawed off.
Whoa, yeah, I can see your scar.
Yeah. And, so there's no such thing anymore.
Okay. Do you believe in cats?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's the same thing as gremlins, so yeah, I believe in gremlins too.
How are they the same?
Next time you look into a cat's eyes, just think about it.
Ogopogo?
It seems super unlikely. I used to want to believe, I know people who claim to have seen Ogopogo, and they're not kidding. Like, they don't like talking about it because people just make fun of them. I went to the Loch Ness Museum in Scotland, and it was really convincing that there's no such thing as Loch Ness. And if you look, they've searched those lakes really carefully. And if you look at the lake, you know, a little tired one morning, the shadows in the water and the ripples and the light, it's so easy to see serpents. But I have a great aunt who saw Ogopogo. She was in a boat and the net came up and looked at her. And then they rowed away as fast as they could. She swears she saw it. As sometimes there's lakes beneath lakes. And that's possible. If there's like another sphere of lake beneath the lake that we know, if there's cave systems that go beneath, or even an entrance to a whole other world, that's possible.
And werewolves?
Yeah, once a month, every full moon. The side of humans that can't be tamed, that we're not domestic animals. Humans are wild animals, and we do things that aren't civilized, aren't proper or polite sometimes. And all of these things that we don't like about being human, well, we might not like about being human, like urges to fight, sex drive, the need to kill things and hunt. I don't see werewolves as being such a bad thing, though. It's really maligning wolves. The Sleep of Reason Breeds Monsters, Goya's first etching in Los Capicos. There's a man sleeping at his desk. Behind him are owls and bats. And down here on the ground, a cat. What's going on in here? Are they attacking him in his sleep? Or are they protecting him? Are they guarding him? They remind me of gargoyles or something. Or are they coming out of him? Is he dreaming it all up? And then are they good or bad? The reason partly that it's so confusing is that a lot of these creatures like owls represent both wisdom and folly. Bats, both ignorance, like blind as a bat, and creativity, aligned with the creative powers of night. The longer version of the quote goes, fantasy abandoned by reason produces impossible monsters. But fantasy united with reason is the mother of the arts and a source of wonders. And so Goya is at once trying to, I think, critique superstition and on the other hand, embrace the raw power of imagination and freedom of thought. And he lived in a really repressive time. It was both really repressive from religion and also really crazy from superstitious stuff. Arguably similar, like different sides of the coin, right? In battle with one another. What's the relationship between what's imagined and what is real? And there's steps between those two sides. The things you never think of that weren't imagined are kind of like off the chart. And then there's the imagined. The things that we expect, the things that we are afraid of, and the things that we desire are all mixed into our imaginary realm, which affect how we behave. So imagination affects belief, it affects action, it affects the real world, we could say. This is real, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to talk about how imagination isn't that imaginary and how it's important, I suppose.
Matt Shane asked me to ask you if you believe in gnomes.
No, definitely not. There's definitely no such thing as gnomes. Nixies, pixies, fairies, trolls, goblins, brownies, nymphs, maybe. But definitely not gnomes. There's also definitely no society for the denial of the existence of gnomes, and I definitely don't have a passport, and they didn't teach Leonardo da Vinci how to build helicopters, and they aren't responsible for hooking up the internet in elaborate corridors beneath our cities. Gnomes don't exist.